In May 2025, we told you about Logan Federico, who was killed by this guy, who'd been arrested 40 times. We saw her devastated father,
preparing to pick out the last dress his daughter will ever wear.
I can't believe I had to do that today. I can't believe I'm going to have to continue to do it until it's done.
Months later, in a Victims of Violent Crimes hearing, that father gave an unbelievable speech that you have to hear.
How many of y'all have kids? I'm just curious. Here's what I need you to do. When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them, and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees, with her hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 goddamn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family? How good are you doing for your kids? He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed. You know how much time he spent in prison? A little over 600 days in 10 years. He's only 30 years old. He was committing 2.65 crimes a year since he was 15 years old, but nobody could figure out that he couldn't be rehabilitated. Well, you'd have to put him in prison to see if he could be rehabilitated. Isn't that the idea of prison? But no, my daughter wanted to be a teacher. She finally figured it out 2 weeks before she was executed. And I haven't heard a damn word from Byron Gibson in South Carolina. Not one word. 4 months, no communication. His biggest concern was that he was pissed off about my interview and how I made him look on the Fox News channel with Trey Gowdy. How pathetic is that? That we're letting our 22-year-old kid visiting friends. It's all she ever wanted to do was visit friends. And she literally was executed while on her knees. And you will not forget her. I promise you. You will be sick and tired of my face and my voice until this gets fixed. I will fight until my last breath for my daughter. You need to fight for the rest of our children, the rest of the innocents, and stop protecting the people that keep taking them from us. Please. You have the power. We put you in the power to do what you have to do. We're asking you, we're begging you all to stop this. 39 crimes in 10 years, 25 felonies. Can anybody here explain to me, well, how possibly he could be on the street? Possibly be on the street. How is it possible? I could sit down in a room and I could explain the whole process of how it failed, how South Carolina failed, Logan, okay? How lack of communication. What y'all did, you woke up a beast and you pissed off the wrong daddy. Because I'm going to put it out there, and I'm not going to be quiet until somebody helps. Logan deserves to be heard. Everyone on this panel deserves to be heard. And we will. Trust me. My daughter laid on the floor for 7 hours before somebody in that house recognized that something was wrong. And that career criminal, an hour later, went on a spending spree with her debit card. When they saw his face on a video, they didn't have to do a check. He was arrested so many times, they knew who he was. They knew exactly where to go get him. pathetic. Absolutely pathetic that I'm here today. Thank you for your time.
Hello there, people of the internet. I really hope you're doing fine from whichever part of the world you're watching this from. So now, today is a sad one. I'm going through a video that I've been seeing it through my timeline or FYP for a long time about an Ukrainian immigrant known as Irina Zarutska, who was fatally stabbed in a train a few weeks ago. So this particular incident has sparked a lot of debate online about people are questioning the judicial system in the United States and just the societal norms and how people relate to one another after this whole incident, being that the suspect in question was arrested almost 13 times, has been in prison for about 10 years last, but in the end he was still let free and was walking freely in the streets to commit such a crime. So that has attracted widespread discussion online. Some people had different opinions about that. I saw some people even open to GoFundMe for a criminal, and yeah, that was not a very good incident, and it really brings up the question of how there is a flaw in the judicial system right now, because how can somebody who has been indicted almost 14 times be let free to be walking in the streets? So this is what these guys had to say. Let's have a quick watch on these videos and then have a really quick discussion at the end of it all.
By now, many of you have seen the horrific video of Irina Zarutska, an immigrant to the United States from Ukraine, who was literally stabbed to death while sitting on a bus by someone who never should have been out of jail. A guy who was released more than a dozen times, a violent criminal, by some wackadoo liberal judge who gets to live behind gated fences and has armed guards protecting them. Well, that's going to stop now. I will be filing legislation to hold every judge in the United States personally responsible when they release violent criminals back onto the streets. If they want to release them back onto the streets, they're going to be responsible if they do something bad. I guarantee this will solve the problem. Look for that bill to drop the minute we have it finished.
It's finally a bill to hold judges accountable for letting the same repeat offenders back out again and again and again. Any other job you mess up like that, you're on mole patrol by Monday. A bouncer lets the same guy spark chaos 4 times. He's folding towels in a rec center. But judges keep the badge, the desk, the pension like nothing happened. If your decisions keep sending proms right back outside, maybe the job's too big for the chair.
By now, many of you have seen the horrific video of Irina Zarutska, an immigrant to the United States from Ukraine, who was literally stabbed to death while sitting on a bus by someone who never should have been out of jail. A guy who was released more than a dozen times, a violent criminal, by some wackadoo liberal judge who gets to live behind gated fences and has armed guards protecting them. Well, that's going to stop now. I will be filing legislation to hold every judge in the United States personally responsible when they release violent criminals back onto the streets. If they want to release them back onto the streets, they're going to be responsible if they do something bad. I guarantee this will solve the problem. Look for that bill to drop the minute we have it finished.
So the thug who murdered that helpless woman on the train, he had at least 13 convictions. He was in trouble with the law at least 13 times, and they have mugshots for each of those times. But, you know, as a judge, and the judges that have ever sat there with him in the courtroom, I would be so apologetic and heartbroken that after every single one of his convictions, I did not throw the book at him. And I did not realize that after 13 convictions, maybe someone like this would not change. Maybe they did not belong on the streets. Maybe this was a bad idea to let them go back into the streets. And I think that it's time that when you have someone with 13 convictions, you stand on your decisions. And when I say that, I say if you're a judge and you know that this individual has a violent criminal history, it is your duty to eventually throw the book at him. Put him in jail for a long time, send him to prison for a long time. No more leniency, all right? No more life changes. Because when it comes down to situations like this, not only should he get the highest punishment available, but we'll never be able to get that woman back. Like, and not only that, but you already have liberals doing GoFundMes for the criminal, trying to get him money because maybe he was misunderstood. Sick and twisted, and a whole bunch of other words I can't say here. But that's all I can think of when it comes to the Democratic Party. How dare you support an animal like this? A rabid dog, if you ask me. And yeah, those judges should be held accountable. They should, because this needs to stop.
So I just watched the newly released footage of Irina Zarutska being stabbed on the train. Here's what I want to know. How in the world were there multiple people sitting right next to her while she bled out and none of them did a darn thing? I mean, multiple people looked at her like they were concerned while she's sitting there crying and holding her neck, and then they got up and they walked away. Do you know how many people I've seen on social media saying things like, well, yeah, this is horrific, but people get stabbed on trains all the time. Why are you singling this one out? I'm sorry, but when as a society did we accept that it's just normal for people to be stabbed to death on trains? Like, bummer if it's you, but happens all the time? We are losing our humanity. We have somehow accepted that there are judges who are just going to let repeat violent criminals back out onto the street to terrorize innocent people. That we have a system that's just going to continue to cost people their lives, and there's nothing that we can do about it. I mean, to the point where people will sit there and watch a woman bleed out on a train floor and think, must be Tuesday. We need to take a hard look at what we the people are going to take here, because a society that accepts this as the cost of daily living and sits back and watches it happen is not a society that can exist for very long.
His own mother has made statements. His own mother has confirmed his severe mental illness. His own mother said he should not have been released that many times, and due to his violent history, he should not have been walking the streets as a free man. That is his mother. So you now have Republicans that are calling for some of these judges to start being held accountable when they let go repeat offenders, violent offenders, and then those offenders go on to hurt other people. I just learned this too, but did you know by the time a person takes the life of another person, it is averaged that they have been taken into custody 11 times. 11. So that means that so many of these incidences are preventable. And in my opinion, this was 100% preventable, a failure on so many levels. So you also now have this congressman out of North Carolina who's calling for the removal of the magistrate that let him go on zero cash bail, cashless bond is what they call it. He should have either have been in the slammer, or he should have at least been in a locked part of an institution receiving treatment. And I've told you a million times, I used to be a mental health worker. I worked with the NGRI population that's not guilty by reason of insanity. And even back then, some of these judges, whether I was working with the adults or the kids, some of these judges would make me so mad because they wouldn't hold people accountable. And then the offenses that these people commit get worse as they get older.
People using Irina Zarutska's death to fuel hatred between two groups are the most disgusting people alive. A woman had her life taken away by a mentally ill man who had no business being on the street. And because of this, people with bad intentions are going to use this to fuel hate campaigns against people that have nothing to do with this. And this is why people donate money to these terrible causes. Because instead of everyone being able to look at a situation for what it is, racial undertones get applied in places where they don't belong. The man who did this doesn't deserve donations. The woman who called that little baby the N-word didn't deserve donations. But they're going to keep getting them because people like you exist. People who don't care about the lives of a victim or the lives of the perpetrators. You just like being able to validate your absolutely insane hatred for people. And to make matters worse, Here come the goofies using this to build up a page. A page filled with people who, by the way, will 9 times out of 10 hate you. Brandon Tatum know that. The Hodge twins know that. Rest in peace to Irina Zarutska. And I hope her and her family get justice. And I hope the people who are trying to fuel this hatred end it all in GTA.
Right. I really hope you've taken time to go through the videos. And it's time to have a few takeaways from that. And first of all, as an immigrant in the United States, it's normally very lonely for people. If you do not have family, you do not have friends, if you're a person of color, mostly you find that you spend most of the time alone. And that is a fact. And like in this other side of the world, maybe in Africa, if you are a tourist or an immigrant, you go to Africa, then the people there would be so welcoming and you would find a community to fit in very easily. So that is not the case, for this girl. So she's been, from the history that I looked up, she was, the family escaped from Ukraine, from the war that is ongoing between Ukraine and Russia. So she was hoping to find her life in the United States and was going to a community college and had some part-time work. But unfortunately, this dude stabbed her on the neck, and that is how she lost her life. So here comes the question. There were so many people in that train. There was a man just right beside her, and then a few people behind and in front. But none of them could even walk to the girl and ask if she is okay after that, or try and apprehend the person after that incident. Everybody passed her. Just, everybody found their way out of the train and left her there to bleed to death, which is so unfortunate. Such a thing, I do not think if it can happen in Africa, in Nairobi, Uganda. If such a thing happened in a public place, then I doubt if the suspect would have even gone 100 meters from the place. He would have been caught up with almost immediately and dealt with by the public. So that brings a question of how the society is in the United States. Why are people not standing up for one another? Most of them see that if it's not my family, it's not me, it's not, they do not bother so much about that, which is so wrong. They ought to have done something very quickly to help at least save the life of this young girl. And now back to the real question about the judicial system. There's a governor who filed a petition to hold the judges accountable if they let such criminals out, because there is no way somebody has been indicted almost 14 times and is still walking free in the streets. So I think that law, when it comes into place, would at least help to reduce such cases and to hold these judges accountable for some of these incidences, because this is something that could have been avoided either by the public or by the judicial system or the court. So that was so wrong, and I think this move by the governors and the Senate to pass it would really have a positive impact in the judicial system. So thank you so much for watching. That is it for today's episode. If you are watching this channel for the first time, please take a minute to subscribe. Like and share with your friends and family for more contents like this. So I noticed about 90% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel yet. So please, that is the only way I would ask for your support, to please take a minute to subscribe, like and share, so that I continue to do more of these episodes. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.